Welcome back. So, the plan is to actually continue with the proof of the Lagrangian multiplier theorem for the NEP problem. We have already derived the proof using penalty function approach for the first order conditions, necessary conditions. Now we want to continue and close the proof for the second order necessary conditions. However, the proof uses a certain concept of projection, and I thought we'll dive deep a bit more into what is a projection and how it is useful in connecting the geometry and algebra of the optimization problem. So we'll develop the notion of projection matrix a bit more today in this class and use it in solving the equality constraint quadratic programming problem. And after that grounding, we will return back to the uh, second proof of the second order necessary conditions, where we will be using the concept of projection. So with this mind, this is a bit of a digress lecture to develop notion of projection, and in the process also show a closed form solution of the quadratic programming problem, quadratic programming problem with equality constraints. All right. So to let me to bring the notion of projection, just consider a simple problem of projecting a vector z in the two-dimensional plane onto x-axis. You could also take it y-axis, but I am projecting it on the x-axis. And algebraically or in matrix algebra, I want to write this projection as a pre-multiplication of the vector z by a matrix Px. So since my Z is a 2 cross 1 vector, my projection matrix will be a square matrix, which is a 2 cross 2 matrix. So now what does the projection do here in this simple example of projection? The Z, which if this has a x bar, y bar is the coordinate of this Z vector, then after projection you are going to get x bar and 0. The y coordinate will become 0 because you have projected it onto the x-axis. So therefore x bar 0 will be equal to px times of z. And one more thing that I want to emphasize is, after you have projected it onto the x-axis, if you again use the same matrix which does the projection onto the x-axis, then will this projection undergo change? It will not undergo change, it will remain the same. So after doing one round of projection, if I multiply the px, pre-multiply this vector, already the projected vector, by px, I'll get the same vector again, which basically will always be true. I'm so sorry, which which will always surely be true if we have this simple property that px square is equal to px. So this is one property that if we have, then this will always happen true, that any vector z, if P is a projection matrix and you project it once, you get some z bar wherever you have projected. Then you project it again, you will retain the same thing if P square is equal to P. So now let's see what this projection matrix is. In this case, it's a very simple matrix. It is just picking up the, this is your xy coordinate. You have to just pick the x coordinate and leave the y coordinate out. So therefore 1 0, and uh, uh, take away the y coordinate. So therefore 0 0. So the projection matrix in this case is a very simple matrix of 1 0 0 0, which you would notice is a symmetric matrix. That is, px is equal to p transpose, and if you square it, you would also see here that square of this matrix is again the same matrix. The diagonal is 1, so it will remain 1, and the other diagonal is 0, it will remain 0. Off diagonals are all 0, they will remain 0. So with this simple motivational example, we can now define a projection matrix as follows. A real n cross n matrix P is called a projection matrix if one, it is symmetric, two, its square is the same matrix. Now, because it's a symmetric real matrix, so eigenvalues of P are going to be real and symmetric. Also, we can show that the eigenvalues of P are either 0 or 1. For example, if you look at this matrix, it's a diagonal matrix of 1 and 0. So its one eigenvalue is 1, another eigenvalue is 0. Then if you look at this particular property, that after I have projected, I'm sorry again, after I have projected and I have a non-zero vector, this non-zero vector coming here, if I again pre-multiply it by the projection matrix, I will get the same vector back. So what does this indicate? This indicates that P times of V is equal to 1 times of V, which implies that 1 is an eigen value. So let's finish that now. Let us say that let x be an arbitrary vector, okay, and let us project it to, after projection it becomes, the projected vector becomes the v vector. So p times of x is equal to v. Now there are two conditions possible. Either v is 0 or v is not 0. If v is 0, then what it means? P times of x is a 0 vector which can be written as 0 times of x, which means that 0 is an eigenvalue. Otherwise, if it's a non-zero vector, then v is equal to px already and v not equal to 0. So if we look at p square, this px, since p is equal to p square, so we can also write it as p square x, which is nothing but p of px, but the px is already a v vector, so this is equal to pv vector. So v is a non-zero vector, pv is equal to 1 times of v, which basically means that 1 becomes the other eigenvalue and there cannot be any other eigenvalue, which is very obvious because we have considered all possible conditions on the vector v. So therefore a projection matrix has either eigenvalue 1 or 0, and in fact that shows that p into I minus p is its minimal polynomial. Anyway, if P is a projection matrix, so is uh, I minus P. So is I minus P. And how do you check it out? You just check. First of all, you uh, check symmetry. So P is symmetric. So I minus P is also symmetric. Is equal to I minus P transpose. Why not? Because P is equal to P transpose. The second thing is you square it. So this is I minus P times of I minus P, which is I minus 2P plus P square, but P square is P, so therefore becomes I minus P. So symmetric and both the properties are satisfied. Symmetric and P minus P square is equal to P, square of it is the same matrix. Therefore this matrix is also, you can say that this matrix is I minus P is also a projection matrix. Now very easy to verify that P into I minus P is 0. This is in fact the minimal polynomial, which indicates that this tells you that the minimal polynomial is going to be 1 into x minus or s minus s into s minus lambda. So this is going to be the minimal polynomial of this particular of the projection matrix. So very easy to verify that P times of I is P minus P square, which is again same as P, will P minus P, therefore a 0 matrix. So this becomes a zero matrix. So what does this mean? This means that range space of I minus p. What is range space of I minus p? Multiply I minus p by any vector x, arbitrary vector x, and what comes here, that is the range space of, that is the range space, the set of all such vectors is the range space of this. So that vector is, let's say, a z vector. So what we are saying is, if z is equal to I minus p times of x, and now if you multiply both sides by p, then p into I minus p being 0, pz becomes 0. So therefore the range space of I minus p, the range space of I minus p is a subspace of the null space of p. Because null space of P is set of all vectors Z such that PZ is 0. And if you because P into I minus P is a 0 matrix, whatever x vector I multiply here, it is 0 times of x, which is 0. So if I minus P into x is not 0, then Pz is 0. So therefore the Z vector comes in the null space. Therefore range space of I minus P is a subspace of the null space of P, and vice versa. And so you can easily show that vice versa. We will just take the you just look at this matrix I minus P into P is also equal to 0. So therefore complete range space of P becomes in the null space of I minus P, and together, because P plus I minus P is equal to I, P plus I minus P is equal to I, together their range spaces will generate the complete Rn space. Hence what it means is that these two matrices create orthogonal subspaces. Projection of P is or perpendicular orthogonal to projection of I minus P. These are complementary subspaces. These are complementary subspaces which generate the complete Rn. So actually, uh, given a projection matrix, from there you get two complementary subspaces which are perpendicular to each other, and they generate the complete space of Rn. So this is a very important fact, a geometrical fact. Now, uh, is is it so difficult to get p square equal to p and p equal to p transpose? The question will be there in the mind, that will it happen only for a selected few matrices, or will it happen for uh, many matrices? Infinitely many combinations could exist. So the answer is that if A is an m cross n real matrix, then let's say rank of A is m, full row rank, that is like a 3 cross 5 matrix with rank 3, where m is less than n, 3 is less than n, then you can easily show that this is a projection matrix. And how do you show that this is a projection matrix? First thing is, show that AA transpose inverse exists. First of all, you should show that. For that, I am not going to do that. I may have done it earlier, or you can do it yourself. This follows from the fact that AA transpose is symmetric SPD, because A is full row rank matrix. Once it becomes SPD, it becomes invertible. Once it becomes invertible, then you can see by dimensionality check, which I have already done here. A transpose is M cross M matrix, A transpose inverse is M cross M matrix, and A is M cross N matrix. So this P becomes a N cross N matrix, and it exists. Now the existence of this P matrix is proved. Next is, once the existence is proved, why was existence required to be proved? Existence needs to be proved for a matrix by first checking at the dimensional compatibilities of the subproduct matrices that is happening there, and two, if there is any inverse, we need to check that the inverse exists. So both of these facts we have checked. Next is to check if it is symmetric, because the first property is that it should be symmetric. And you can easily see that this matrix is symmetric. You take transpose of it, this A will come as A transpose, this A transpose will go as A here, and here it will become A transpose inverse whole in transpose of that. But because A transpose is a symmetric matrix, its inverse is also a symmetric matrix. So the transposition of it is going to be the same matrix. In other words, this matrix is a symmetric matrix. Now what else remains? P square is equal to check whether P square is equal to P. Now, so if you look at P square, it is A transpose A transpose inverse A times A transpose A transpose inverse A. And now if you group this inverse goes with this inverse, gets replaced by an identity matrix of appropriate dimension, and then A transpose inverse A, which is A transpose inverse times of A, which is nothing but your matrix P. So therefore this shows that P square is equal to P. So now you are able to generate a n cross n projection matrix from a full row rank matrix A. Since A can be infinitely many examples of A can be created, so you can now clearly see that even for a 3-5 cross 5 matrix or so you can clearly see that so many projection matrices can be written. So therefore that set is a really vast set. Okay, if A is full column rank, incidentally, then A is, let's say, a full column rank matrix, then you can check that A transpose A inverse, which is a n cross n matrix, times A transpose and A is a projection matrix. So this is a, with full column rank matrices, this will give you a projection matrix which is of m cross n dimension. Again, the proof follows exactly in the same way as I just now told you, so I will leave it to you to check. Now let us use this projection matrix to solve a quadratic programming problem. So let's see at the application of it. So projection matrix, again, before I move further, want to emphasize that it basically takes the algebra of the geometry of the problem and converts it into matrix algebra. So that's the connection between geometry and algebra. So it's a geometric concept. Now, the equality constrained optimization problem that I want to take and solve is the following. Minimize the square of the length of x vector. So this is x1 square plus x2 square plus x3 square and so on up to xn square plus c transpose of x, subject to the equality constraint Ax is equal to 0. X is a r cross n vector, Ax is a m cross n matrix. This right hand side is a m cross 1 0 vector, which indicates that restriction is that x should come from the null space of A, and for the sake of simplicity, though not critical, but for the sake of simplicity, we are going to assume rank of A is equal to m. Alright. Now, I can equivalently write this problem as minimize half of c plus x, the length of the vector c plus x, square of the length of the vector c plus x, minimize length of the square of the length of the vector c plus x subject to the requirement ax is equal to 0. How? By to convert it into a perfect square, what I am going to do is I am going to write this as 2 by 2 and then add here half of c square. Okay. So what I am saying is I am now looking at the following: half of length of x square plus length of c square plus 2 times of c transpose of x. And if you look at this, this is nothing but x plus c whole square times of half. So this problem and this problem becomes equivalent in the sense that what I have done is I have only added a constant here. I have only added a constant which is half of c transpose c. Adding a constant to the objective function does not change the x star. So equivalence is that the same x star is going to be obtained even if I solve this particular, try to attempt to solve this particular problem. So it's better to pose it at this particular problem. Now, I have been emphasizing with you all through that first thing you should always check is whether a minimum exists or not. If only a minimum exists, then you should go forward to check to actually calculate it. So the existence of this particular problem, let's minimize square of the length of the objective function subject to the restriction ax is equal to 0, is very straightforward because our objective function is coercive. X tending to infinity, the objective function will go to infinity, and all of those x can go to infinity with the restriction ax is equal to 0. So therefore I have a coercive function sitting here, and a coercive function we have already seen over the restriction. When the function is coercive, then we have already seen that it has a optimal exists. So therefore the minimum is going to exist. Now we just need to look at what that minimum is. So to check the minimum, first of all, one thing that we have been trying to I have been trying to teach now is that first write the algebraic approach to it is first write the Lagrangian function. So we write the objective function plus lambda transpose is the ax minus 0 is the constraint. So this is my lambda transpose h of x, where lambda is a m dimensional, that is lambda 1, lambda 2 to lambda m, as described in that theorem, the Lagrangian multiplier theorem. This is the vector of Lagrangian multipliers. Now optimality requires that my x star should be a stationary point of the Lagrangian function when the lambda is also substituted by lambda star. So if I take the derivative of this with respect to x, then this is going to be c plus x star plus a transpose lambda star. The summation of this should be equal to 0. And of course the other requirement is the feasibility requirement, which is to set the derivative of the Lagrangian function with lambda to 0 and evaluate it at x star, which is saying that ax star is a 0 vector. So if you multiply the first equation by x star transpose, so you multiply x star transpose here, x star transpose here, x star transpose here, then this basically means ax star transpose, but ax star transpose being a 0 vector. So what do we get? We can annihilate this term if we pre-multiply this equation by x star transpose, and that gives you that x star transpose c or c transpose x star, because it's a scalar, plus square of the length of the x vector should be equal to 0. You can also write it as x star transpose x star, and then take x star common out, and that gives you a optimality condition or requirement comes out to be that the x star vector should be, the solution vector should be perpendicular to the gradient vector c plus x star, the gradient vector c plus x star. So these two are orthogonal to each other. Here the 0 is a is a scalar. So this still does not give you the x star vector. So I am going to now calculate the x star vector through the method of projection. So I am going to use the method of projection to calculate the x star vector. So I am going to use the projection of A matrix. The projection of the A matrix is defined by A transpose A transpose inverse A, and this is the projection matrix of A. Incidentally, this matrix here, let me just copy this. Incidentally, this matrix here, go down and do some rough work. This matrix here is also known as the Penrose-Moore inverse of matrix A. So A is a, recall, full M cross N, full row rank matrix. It does not have an inverse. Why? Because it is in general a rectangular matrix. In the only in the special case, A is a M cross N. If M is equal to N, then it becomes a full row rank. Is as good as saying that it is a square full rank matrix. In which case it is anyway invertible. That becomes a, so the square inverse becomes a special case of it. We are generalizing the concept. In this case, we are saying that it is a full row rank matrix. So existence of this matrix is straightforward. We have already checked that this matrix exists. Now a matrix, I don't know if I have said this earlier, so let me say it again. Let A be a M cross N matrix and X be a N cross M matrix which satisfies following four conditions. And what are those conditions? AXA is equal to A, XAX is equal to X, AX, these are all real matrices that I am talking of. A times of X is same as A times of X transpose, and X times of A transpose is same as X time, or rather to write it in the same way, is equal to XA transpose. If any matrix satisfies these four conditions, then we say that X is a Penrose-Moore inverse of A and use a special symbol to denote it, which is X is equal to A plus. So if a matrix is square and full rank, then obviously X is equal to A inverse. You can check that A inverse A is equal to A inverse A inverse will be A inverse A inverse will be an identity matrix and hence same as transpose. A inverse A will be also an identity matrix and hence same as its transpose. So basically inverse, if it exists, the normal inverse of the square matrix, the non-singular matrix, if it inverse, it automatically becomes the Penrose-Moore inverse. But this generalizes the concept to all the matrices. Now A is M cross N matrix, this is N cross M matrix, so product becomes M cross M times A, which is M cross N matrix. So this will multiply properly and should come out to be A. and similarly you can check the dimensionality matches on all the four conditions. Now what I am saying is that for a full row rank matrix, this is the Penrose-Moore inverse. So I will just I'm just going to check this third property and leave everything else to you to check, because I have a feeling I may have already touched upon it. So more like a recap. And even if not a recap, now you are at that level of the course where you can easily derive it yourself. So AA plus will turn out to be AA transpose, AA transpose inverse, which will actually become a identity matrix over M, because this is M cross N, this is N cross M, so this will become a identity matrix over M. When a matrix satisfies this requirement that AX is equal to identity, which is what we say, then X is also called a right inverse of A, and when a matrix satisfies the requirement that XA is equal to I, if this happens then it is called right inverse. If this happens then it is called left inverse of A. So in this case, in our example, A plus that we have got is actually the right inverse of A. Now you, again I leave it to you to check that AA plus is a projection matrix. Once you have shown that, automatically it means that I minus AA plus is also a projection matrix. A plus A is a projection matrix, and therefore this is over Im and this is over In. This is also a projection matrix. So these are some standard projection matrices which comes in the least squares quadratic programming kind of formulations. I'll just leave it to you to check. Now let me get back to uh, what we were let me get back to what we were giving doing. So the thing here I have got is uh, uh, I have chosen a projection matrix A transpose. Did I write anything? Just a minute. Just want to be sure that I didn't write anything wrongly. No, I have not written anything anything wrong. I think everything is in order. Let's come back. Uh, yeah, let's come back. So let's choose this projection matrix. Let's look at this projection matrix, uh, and so this is A plus, is it not? This is A plus, and this is A, and I had below written to you that to check that A plus A is always a projection matrix. So this is first of all, you can easily check that this is symmetric. Second, you have to just check that this the square of it is the same matrix, and once these two things are established, you would have established that this is a projection matrix. So once this is which projection matrix? I'll just write it in the bracket. Reason because this is A plus A, which is always a projection uh, matrix. So this is the reason why this is a projection matrix. Now I minus P times of Y. Once you have chosen this particular projection matrix, then you can always say that I minus P times of Y projects a vector Y into null space of A. Why? Because if you look at the vector I minus P of Y, if you look at A times of I minus P, that is going to be A minus AA transpose times AA transpose inverse times A, which is A minus A, which is a zero vector. So therefore, I minus P uh, spans, and I have already shown that P and I minus P are such that they will span the complete uh, Rn space. So therefore, projects Y to the null space of a P and also spans the null space of A, null space of A, and hence, you know, what I am saying is that Ax is equal to 0 is equivalent to saying that x can be written in the form I minus p times of y. Alright, why? Because a times of I minus p is 0. So therefore all vectors of the form I minus p times of y will, when pre-multiplied by a, give you 0 vector. So therefore this is a subset of the subspace of the null space of a matrix, but indeed because p plus I minus p is equal to 0 is equal to, sorry, I, so this we have shown it earlier that this in fact spans the complete null space of A. So therefore this is equivalent to saying that I can be written as x is equal to I minus p into a vector y, n dimensional vector y, because this is n cross m matrix and this is a, P in this case is a n cross n vector. So therefore n y has to be a n cross 1 vector. This is a n cross n projection matrix, and x becomes a n cross 1 vector. So once we know that p x can be written as simply I minus p times of y with the appropriate projection matrix P, then we can just substitute that in the objective function and convert this problem into a unconstrained minimization problem, is it not? So therefore what I am going to do is, in C plus x, I am going to just substitute x as I minus p times of y and convert this problem into minimize y over Rn half of C plus I minus p times of y, the square of the length of whole of this. This becomes the unconstrained optimization problem. Once I have converted it into unconstrained optimization problem, and I already know that this problem has a solution because of the originally itself I have established that this original problem has a solution. So the equivalent unconstrained optimization problem also has a solution. So what I have to do to evaluate the solution, I have to set its gradient now with respect to variable y to 0, which amounts to saying that the gradient of c plus length of c plus x whole square would have been length just c plus x. So similarly here you will get c plus I minus p into y, but you have to apply a chain rule here because there is a product I minus p times of y sitting here, which amounts to taking which amounts to, so there's something like this is what I am saying, that if you are taking up f of x, then the gradient is f of just the gradient of f of x with respect to x. Now if this was however coming as f of a plus x, then the gradient would turn out to be, by application of chain rule, as if you are taking gradient with f of a of x and then applying a transpose on the behind. So this is something I just want you to verify of your own, more of a verification property. So you do it of your own, and I minus p transpose is same as I minus p. So therefore what I get is, and square of it when I multiply it with I minus p, because I minus p is a projection matrix, So therefore this whole thing is just going to be I minus p times of y star should should be equal to taking whole of this thing onto the right hand side minus of, because I minus p transpose is same as I minus p, minus of I minus p times of c. Now I minus p y star by our substitution is nothing but x star. So therefore x star becomes simply I minus p times of c, and now just substitute for p the projection that we have taken, which is A transpose whole inverse A transpose. So therefore x star becomes nothing but minus of I minus p times of c. So what we have essentially shown is that c has been minus of c has been projected onto the null space of A matrix. The solution of this particular original problem, uh, the solution of this original problem is simply project minus of c vector, the minus of c vector. See, if the problem was unconstrained, this was not there, then minus c vector would have set the objective function to 0. This problem, this tells you, equivalent problem tells you that if this was not 0, then x is equal to minus c is the unconstrained global minimum, unique global minimum of this unconstrained optimization problem. What our geometry has shown, the whole work that we did geometrically now, geometry come algebra that we did now, that if this additional constraint Ax is equal to 0 was put, then minus c may not be admissible, because A times of c may not be equal to 0. If A times c became equal to 0, there was no problem. But A times of c may not be equal to 0, or A times of minus c may not be equal to 0, in which case the optimal solution is just projecting minus c onto the null space of minus of c to the null space of A, and you get the optimal solution. So what we have done is we have solved the problem by projecting minus c onto the null space of A, and that you can easily check that this one satisfies this condition 3. Just substitute it here and you can check that this one satisfies this particular condition. Good. Now we have reached some position. Now let's take a slightly generic QP problem. What is my next level generic quadratic programming problem that I am taking? Minimize over x half of x minus x bar transpose h times of h minus x bar. So it's like centering all the vectors x around x bar, and then looking at x minus x bar as the radius or whatever, like that, around the centered point x bar. The reference has been shifted to x bar. So minimize half of x minus x bar transpose h x minus x bar plus c transpose of x minus x bar, subject to the requirement that Ax is equal to b. Now not Ax is equal to 0, but in general there are some linear equality constraints to be solved, linear equality constraints to be satisfied, and x bar is a special point of the type that it is a feasible point, which is to say that Ax bar is equal to b, and H is a symmetric positive definite matrix. Let me write that. H is a symmetric positive definite matrix. Now, if the H is symmetric positive definite matrix, then I have shown earlier that all its eigenvalues are positive, that there is a Skur decomposition of it of the form P times of the lambda matrix times P transpose, and then I can split that diagonal matrix lambda into P to the into lambda to the power half into lambda to the power half, and introduce in between again a matrix of the form PP transpose, which is a identity matrix, because Skur's diagonalization, the eigenvector matrix is an orthogonal matrix, and hence uh, you can actually write h as a product of the square root of the its own matrix h half times uh, h to the power half, and using that idea that there is a square root possible of a positive definite symmetric matrix, I am going to write now this h as h to the power half times of h to the power half, and introduce here h to the power half times of my h to the power minus half times of h to the power half. Why? Because h to the power half is also square root of h is also a positive definite matrix, hence it has an inverse. I'm going to write it in this particular form, and b I am going to write as ax bar, and therefore write this as a times of x minus x bar is equal to 0. Now, basically what I want to do is I am trying to transform this problem, the one which I have been given, into this particular problem. So what I have done is, first thing that I have used is that by writing this as h to the power half into h to the power half on both the sides, I can use a transformation y of the form h to the power half into x minus x bar is equal to y. I can use this transformation and convert this as minimize over y half of the length of y square plus now some equivalent c tilde transpose of y. That's what that's what I want to do. So towards that end, here I introduced c to make this x minus x bar y. I introduce this, and with that transformation my objective function comes out to be nice, this simpler form. I need you to check into it. However, a minus x minus bar is equal to 0 still does not give me the y variable. The y variable requires this h to the power half to come in. So I will write a as a h to the power minus half into it h to the power half x minus x bar, and I leave it to you to check that this dimensional compatibility is there to introduce this matrix. And once I have done that, then a matrix equivalently has to be substituted by a into h to the power minus half matrix, and now this is the right form of the quadratic programming problem which we have already solved. And what was the solution given by? The solution was given by this vector. This was the optimal solution. So now just replace a by a into h to the power minus half, c by what we have put in here, and you get y star, the optimal solution to this particular problem. Once you have got y star, then just take this side here, and x bar is already known to you, so you get the optimal solution x. So again the projection property has been used to solve this particular problem. Now, now we will solve. Now what we are going to do is we are going to see the quadratic programming problem the way most of the time we come across it in the literature, which is minimize half of x transpose hx c transpose x subject to the constraint ax is equal to b, where h is a positive definite matrix. Now, this is slightly jumping. This requires some kind of insight or a leap of faith. But this problem I am going to show, this problem can be equivalently brought to this form, which always has a solution because we just solved that. We can bring it to this form by choosing x bar to be of the form x bar, the solution to ax bar is equal to b, to be of this particular form. So looks messy, but it's really not that messy, but it does look messy. I agree to you. Now, if you just look at this this x bar and pre-multiply it by a, what happens? A times H inverse A transpose will cancel out with this inverse. A transpose will cancel out with its inverse, leaving you with the vector B, which basically means that Ax bar is equal to B. So indeed, X bar meets this particular for requirement of this particular formulation. So now let us consider with this idea, let us instead consider a slightly different problem to begin with, what looks like a slightly different problem, which is minimize over x half of x minus x bar transpose h into x minus x bar plus c transpose of x minus x bar. And this problem, subject to requirement Ax is equal to B, has a solution. Why? Because we have already solved it. This one we have already solved it. Now what I am going to show to you is this problem is equivalent, this problem is equivalent to this same problem here, except for differing by a constant in the objective function, which does not alter the objective function value. So to that end, when I take this objective function and expand it, what will I get? I'll get half of x transpose hx, which I have written it here, c transpose x bar, which I have written it here, plus half of x bar transpose, sorry, half of x bar transpose h x bar, the minus minus cancel out, so this is also written here. Then you get minus half of x bar transpose h x bar, which will again repeat with this combination, so twice of it, the scalar becomes minus of x transpose h x bar plus half of x bar transpose x bar. Is this is not, I think this is already, yeah, uh, one minute, yeah, this term probably is not there, it doesn't matter, so let's erase this. This is not there. Minus C transpose of X bar, minus C transpose of X bar. So we have, this will decompose into three terms. First term, second term, three terms, and this will decompose into two terms, first term and second term, and all the terms are now listed here. Now the problem in showing the equivalence to begin with will come out, because this is a constant, it will not alter the solution, this will constant, this will not alter the solution. These two terms are the original problems terms, so therefore their being in the objective function is fine. Real problem is coming because of this minus of x transpose hx bar. Now what I am going to show you with my nice choice of x bar, minus of x transpose hx bar is going to be a constant. So let's see how. X transpose hx bar. But what is hx bar? Hx bar is just this, A transpose A into H inverse A transpose inverse times of B. So I have just written that here, which is pre-multiplied by x transpose, which is pre-multiplied by x transpose. So therefore this hx bar has been substituted as this times of x transpose. But what is this? This is nothing but ax whole transpose. But what has ax to be equal to? Ax has to be equal to b. So therefore this becomes b transpose A H inverse A transpose times of B, which is a constant. which is a constant. So actually turns out, though the mysteriously this appears to you that it appears to us mysteriously, it appears to us that this term is not a constant, but because ours is a constant problem, this is indeed a constant and is equal to this particular constant. So what has happened is, what this formulation that I have taken just adds constants to the original problem, hence does not alter the solution, and hence this problem also has a optimal solution. And once we have done the mapping, in a sense we have already solved this problem. But now, having shown that this has a solution, I am just going to give you a nice simple solution by applying the first order uh, Lagrangian equality, first order optimality condition directly onto this problem. So what I will do, first I will write the Lagrangian function. How do I write the Lagrangian function? I just write the objective function, which is half of x transpose hx plus c transpose x, and then to that I add the Lagrangian multiplier, which is lambda transpose ax minus b. Then I set its derivative with respect to x to 0, which is hx star plus c plus a transpose lambda star equal to the 0 vector. And then the feasibility requirement, which is that ax star should be equal to b. Now let me just, now because I know that it has a solution, I am going to do the algebra very fast, which is the beauty of Lagrangian multiplier theorem. So I put this in a I put this in a matrix form. I take C to the right hand side, write it as minus B. This B is already sitting at the right hand side. So H times of X star plus A transpose times of lambda star is equal to minus C. AX star plus 0 times of lambda star is equal to B. So this is what, this is a n plus m into n plus m matrix. This is a n plus m into 1 vector, and this is a n plus m into 1 vector. Now because H is a positive definite matrix, I can multiply this first row by H inverse. So I will get identity. So identity, I am going to solve this set of equations. That's what I am trying to do. So I multiply the first row by H inverse. So I get identity H inverse A transpose, and this C will be replaced by minus C will be replaced by minus of H inverse times of C. Next, this first n equations, I will multiply by the A matrix and subtract it from below. So A is a m cross n matrix. It can be used to multiply this. I will multiply these first equations by n equations by the A matrix. That's like doing a linear combination to reduce it to m equations and then subtracting it from these m equations. So what I will get when I multiply this whole block by m and subtract it from the lower block, this block will become 0. This will be multiplied by A and subtracted from this this m cross m block. So this will get you minus of A times of H inverse A transpose, and then this is also multiplied by A and subtracted from here, so comes as B plus A H inverse of C. Now I have made it into a block upper triangular matrix, so I can solve it using the idea of back substitution. So the lambda star will be written as inverse, take inverse of this, which is minus of A H inverse A transpose whole inverse, and this exists because A is a full row rank matrix. So you check that this matrix is a positive definite matrix, therefore this inverse exists, is given by this, and lambda star turns out to be this particular value. Now once you have got the lambda star, plug it back lambda star in the first set of equations. So what we are doing is we are going the forward substitution, backward substitution. So the backward substitution step over upper triangular matrix is what we are doing, and you can write now x star as minus of h star c plus this taken on to the times lambda star taken on to the other side. So minus of H inverse A transpose lambda star, which is minus of H inverse, which is minus of H inverse C plus A transpose lambda star, and then substitute the value of lambda star here. This is a messy expression. I am not going to read out, but the importance of this expression is that it is the closed form solution to equality constraint quadratic programming problem where H was taken to be positive definite. So I just wanted to actually develop a bit of notion of projection matrix to solve to complete the proof of the Lagrangian multiplier theorem for the NEP problem. But in the process today, we actually showed a nice closed form solution to a standard quadratic equality constraint positive definite quadratic programming problem, which makes me feel happy about it. Let's take a break here, and we'll come back in the next class and close the proof of the NEP problem. Thank you.